Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, I'm very proud to present my first fall forecast for the year of 2020. Now, before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. Now, for today's comment of the day, I want to know, how do you want this fall to go where you live? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Now, let's get into this video, and first things first, we're taking a look at our precipitation forecast. And you can see we have a very large swath of above average precipitation. And this is an area where it's very typical to have above average precipitation during a La Nina, and sure enough, it looks like we're going to have a La Nina, so that's mostly why I'm showing this, but also all of my climate models and also my analogs are showing above average precipitation in these regions. Now, I'm especially concerned here about Washington and Oregon to see well above average precipitation. I think that we're going to have a lot of storms moving onshore during the fall and the winter months, because that's what a La Nina usually brings. 9 times out of 10, a La Nina brings above average precipitation to these regions and above average storms. And sure enough, again, we're going to be in a La Nina. So that's definitely what I'm anticipating here. Now, what we're going to do is we're about to move on, and we're going to take a look at where I think that moderately above average precipitation region will be located. So I'll show you guys that, and then we will start to get into our below average precipitation, our temperature forecast, our fall snowfall forecast, and then our overall forecast. Alright, and here's where we're at for the moderately above average precipitation region, and you can see the western halves of Oregon and Washington look to have moderately above average precipitation. And this is because, again, we're in a La Nina, and I think we're going to have frequent storms moving into these regions. It's just very typical from about October through I don't even know, maybe February, March, to see storms just bombarding this area during La Nina years. And sure enough, that's the case, like I said before. And as you can just tell from the shape of this above average region, they're going to move through the northern Rockies, and then kind of dip down into the Great Lakes regions there, and bring slightly above average precipitation for a lot of those regions. Now let's get into where we're expecting below average precipitation, and you can see from Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, and in through a lot of those Gulf states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. And then we even see South Carolina and North Carolina involved there, as well as Tennessee and Arkansas. And the reason this doesn't touch the coast is because any tropical storm or tropical disturbance that hits the Gulf states could greatly influence this map. So I don't even want to touch the Gulf states, the Gulf Coast. I think that you will likely, without tropical interference, will have slightly below average precipitation. But just the chance, that really increased chance for tropical activity that we're going to have this year with the La Nina, I think that there's really good odds that a lot of areas see much above average precipitation just because of one tropical system. So it's really difficult to predict those tropical regions there. And I think if we do see a tropical storm, obviously you're going to be dealing with a lot of precipitation. Now, what we're going to do is we're about to move on and talk about that temperature forecast. We're going to get into where we could see some above average temperatures, below average temperatures, and again, after that, we're going to move on to that exciting snowfall forecast and also the overall forecast. Alright, and here we are taking a look at the above average temperature regions, and you can see for most of the country, I think we're going to be in above average temperatures. From Washington, Oregon, so the Pacific Northwest, through the Southwest, and even into the Great Plains and a lot of the South Central United States, all of the Rockies, the Upper Midwest, and basically all the way until we get to Illinois, Missouri, and Arkansas. All of these regions are anticipating above average temperatures, or at least slightly above average temperatures for many of these regions. And this is very typical, again, in a La Nina, and all of the models and my analogs show these areas having above average temperatures. And what's interesting is they have the Arctic regions of the world having below average temperatures. And what does this typically lead to? Well, a warmer fall in the United States and a colder fall in the Arctic regions usually leads to a lot of Arctic outbreaks by the time we're in November, December, January, and more potent ones at that. So that is what I'm anticipating at this point, is if we do have a warm fall and very cold conditions over the Arctic regions, that's just going to strengthen that polar vortex, and it's going to allow for even colder air during the winter. So that's something we're just going to have to watch throughout the entire year, and obviously I will have more updates for that as time moves on. All right, now we do have a moderately above average temperature region that I want to talk about briefly here as well, and this is going to be for the West Coast, up through the Pacific Northwest, obviously, and then up through the Northern Rockies and through Montana, Wyoming, and the Dakotas there. This is an area where I'm expecting we're going to have a positive PDO, and what this means is the waters just offshore of the west coast of the United States are going to be far above average if this is to take place, and that's just going to help. When those winds move onshore from the ocean, it's going to be warmer than what is typical, and that's going to influence the air temperature over the United States, and that's mostly why I have this region here. Now, what we're going to do is we're about to move on, and we're going to talk about where we could have some below average temperatures, and then again, we're going to move on to that exciting snowfall forecast and our exciting overall forecast for fall of 2020. All right, and here's that below average temperature region. As of right now, we don't have any moderately or highly below average temperature regions, so we don't get into either of those two darker shades. We're sticking with the slightly below average because our confidence as of right now isn't as high as it could be, and I'm sure as we update this fall forecast, which by the way, we're going to be doing multiple of these. There's going to be one in July and one in August, which will probably be our final one, maybe even more if I feel like I need to change it at all. So there will be multiple updates to this one. This is just our first preliminary fall forecast, which is our initial thoughts. Also, I have some very exciting news before we move on. Our first preliminary winter forecast will be coming out in July, the middle of July or the later portion of July, and I know a ton of people are excited for that one. It's usually the most popular video on the entire channel. I'm very, very excited to be making that video coming up very soon. It's getting that time of year where we need to talk about it. I'm highly anticipating that, and I hope you guys are as well. Let us know in the comments how you feel about that. I know a lot of people are excited about that, and it's some people's favorite videos. Alright, so we have this below average temperature region for the eastern United States, a lot of the Gulf states, and some of the south central United States as well, is Ohio, some of the Ohio Valley like Indiana and Ohio. We see Michigan as well, and all of New England as well. Again, this might need updates in the future. Just tweaks. It's not going to be completely different by the time we get to our final forecast, but there will be some slight differences. All right, now what we're going to do is we're about to move on to that very exciting snowfall forecast and that very exciting overall forecast, the two most exciting maps of this video probably. So we're about to move on to that. Stay tuned. All right, and here we are looking at that snowfall anomaly map here. And the only region that we have right now is an above average snowfall anomaly region. And this is going to be from the Northern Rockies and through a lot of the upper Midwest and then the Great Lakes. And you might be wondering, well, didn't these areas have above average temperatures? Well, they did, but they had above average precipitation as well. We're going to have more storms moving through these regions. And even though it'll be a little bit warmer than normal, I know this sounds confusing, but when cold air does come in, when we do get those Arctic blasts, which whether it's warmer than normal or colder than normal, we will see Arctic blasts either way. I think they're going to be more potent this year because, again, that polar vortex is going to be intensifying the whole fall time as we're getting closer and closer to winter. There is going to be some Arctic outbreaks, and when those do occur, I think they're going to be more potent than what is normal. So we might see conditions that are a lot closer to what winter would usually bring for some chunks of time during the fall time when we do see those Arctic outbreaks. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if that's confusing. I can clear it up in the comments if that did confuse you. Now, we're moving on to that overall forecast. This is always the most beautiful map of the entire video. It's always the thumbnail because it's so beautiful. I love all the colors and stuff. I love making these as well. Now, we're going to work our way from the northwest, and we're just going to work our way eastward. So as you can see, for the Pacific Northwest, we have very stormy conditions. Again, we're expecting moderately above average precipitation, and we're expecting more storms than what is typical. This is very typical for La Nina, and that is what we're expecting. Now, for the Southwest, we're expecting warmer than normal conditions. All of our climate models that we use here at Direct Weather and all of our analogs that we're using this year all show warmer than normal conditions for this Southwest region. So that is definitely what I'm anticipating to happen from September through November. Now, typical snowfall for these white regions, whether it's warmer than normal or colder than normal, the Rockies will see fall time snowfall. It is almost always happens, so we are anticipating that to occur once again for about the 100th year in a row. Let's see, cold at times for this lighter blue region. I think that especially later on, again, those Arctic outbreaks could be colder than what is typical during an Arctic outbreak, so we could see some winter-like conditions at times for this region, but overall it's going to be warmer than normal most of the time. We're going to see heat waves down there for Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. Again, this is just another thing that is very typical. We saw this last year during September, and I think that we could see similar conditions to that this year as well. Again, especially during the first half of fall, that is going to be more likely. Up to the north, we see more dry conditions for this tan area. You saw that on our precipitation forecast. I don't really have to say much about that. There's not going to be a storm track that really brings a lot of precipitation to this region, and that's why we're going to see less precipitation than what is typical. Up for our purple region, we're going to have potent Arctic blasts. And again, you guys are probably wondering, why did you have above average temperatures if you're calling for potent Arctic blasts? Again, the warmer conditions in the United States and the colder conditions over the Arctic regions is just going to create more and more potent cold air that could just blast down at any time. I think September and most of October will probably be warmer than normal, but by the time November hits, we're going to see those Arctic outbreaks just finally breaking away from the Arctic region and probably causing Arctic blasts for the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. And again, these Arctic blasts will be more potent than what is typical for a fall time Arctic blast. So we are going to be on the lookout for some extra cold air to come in at times for these purple regions. Now for our blue region down there, for a lot of the southeast and the mid-Atlantic there, we have colder than normal conditions. And I think, again, September might be a little bit warmer than normal, but by the time we're heading into October and November, we could have some cold air set up over you guys at times. Let's see, for the pink region down here for the southeast, tropical activity is going to be extra possible this year because we have that La Nina. And again, if you've seen our hurricane outlook, you can tell that we are definitely calling for more tropical activity than what is usual. So I think that the possibility of a landfalling tropical system is above average this year for this pink region. And then last but not least, for the northeast, we have flip-flop pattern. I think we could see cold air at times, but also I think it could be very warm at times. I think it could be dry at times, and I think it could be wetter at times. So it's really hard to predict what's going to be going on for that northeastern region. It's really hard to say at this point. Maybe in my future fall forecast, we'll have a much better idea of what to expect for this region. But as of right now, it seems pretty average. Anyway, for today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, how do you think June has gone so far? And Vegas Aviation 22 said, I think June is going as predicted. The hurricane season is already active. Lots of severe weather. It's definitely been active. And I love to hear that our predictions have done good for the month of June. So I'm very happy to hear that it's gone as predicted for your region. Thank you so much for watching. Again, be sure to share it with your friends, family, and social media. I will see you guys in the next video.